There we go. Can we hear me now? Can we hear me now? I think you should be able to hear me now. Hopefully. Is it working now? Is it working? Let me know in the chat. Can you hear me? Hello. Oh, great, great, great. What is up, everybody? Hey, 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 Ellen, Lisa, Laura, Annie, Beeswax Minder. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. We've got I had this whole thing planned for today, and then I changed my mind on it. But before we get started, let's get going as we always do. 2021 is shaping up to be interesting, ain't it? Here's to you. Here's to making it through the last year. Here's to being here today together to enjoy the weirdness that's about to ensue. I am drinking whiskey today as usual. I hope if you're at work, you've got a little flask hidden away or something. Have a toast. Here's to you. Here's to Salem. Stay weird, witches. Let's have some fun. Ugh. Whiskey at 1:30 in the afternoon is a bad decision. Okie dokie. Cheers, 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 everybody. Let's see what we got in the way of new subscribers. Let's see what these new folks are all about before we launch into the show. Since last time, which was 2 weeks ago. God, it's been so long since we've talked. We've got fairest one of all underscores all around. They look like they are sub to a lot of cool people. Chills. Ooh, what's Chills? Oh, I've heard of Chills. That's right. Yeah. Welcome, fairest one of all. I like your subs. I like your subs a lot. We got Coyote Moon. Let's see what they're up to. Ooh, they upload. Meet My Dragon Clan. Whoa. What is this? Is this someone who makes these things? Do you make these? Coyote Moon? I wonder. They're beautiful if you do. Wow, look at that. Crystal skulls. Welcome. Those are gorgeous. Gorgeous. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Welcome. We got Bobby Lee. Bobby Lee, what you up to, buddy? Live Facebook reviews and announcements. Working Man's Whiskey. All right, all right, all right. Yeah, man after my own heart, at least when it comes to alcohol. Cool, cool, cool. Welcome, Bobby. We got a bunch more. Let's just pick one more and then we'll launch into the show. How about this one? Diana 12367 Abel. Bunch of Mad TV stuff, some wrestling stuff. Cool. Welcome. Well, the first thing I want to talk about today, you guys, is the channel past 1,000 subscribers. Cheers to you for making that happen. That had nothing to do with me. That's all you guys. Thank you for sharing stuff. Thank you for subscribing. Continue to do so, I suppose. That's awesome. Great news. All right, we got kind of an informal show today because if you haven't had time, cheers, Kim. If you haven't had time to check out the channel today, only about an hour or so ago, I posted a video that I want to talk about. On January 29th, I've been talking about on this channel for the past month or so. There's the premiere coming up of an audio series that I've been working on. What I've not talked about yet is exactly what that premiere is going to look like. So now that that video is live and it's sort of out in the open, I want to give you people who watches the Friday live shows kind of an exclusive backstage look at what we're working on. And what we're working on looks a little something like that. All right, what you are seeing now on the little down there window, I'll make it bigger here in a second, is basically a top-down, two-dimensional, retro style, basically like video game conferencing experience. Let me make a big screen here. Ba-doom, there, that worked. Okie dokie, so look how giddy I am. Look. That's me running around in this little world. This world that you're seeing, we created and are creating. This is the entry lobby that you're seeing right now of the main theater where the premiere of the audio series that we've been working on is going to take place. And just a little bit, if you're new to the channel and don't know much about this audio series, we've been working on it for the last 2 months or so. It's a 6-episode long audio series that we are doing a live screening of the entire series, beginning to end, January 29th, 6 p.m. Thank you, Eden. Thank you so much. And basically, the way that we're doing this screening, we're going to try and do something really, I think it's really ballsy and cool. Everybody in the cast and crew is just like chomping at the bit to talk about it. Now we can finally start talking about it. You're getting a first look. We have planned for this screening night a whole set of live events and featurettes and stuff that are related to the audio series you're going to be experiencing. The audio series itself is a ghost story based on a real murder, unsolved murder that happened around the Salem, Massachusetts area in 1941. We bounce between 1941 and 2021, where the Bishop family, who are the protagonists really of the story, are experiencing the emotional, spectral ramifications of the murder that happened in 1941. So we're bouncing back and forth between 2 time periods in a very cool, interesting way. I don't want to give too much about the story away because it is very much a thrilling, haunting, scary, spooky kind of story. So the less you know about it, in my experience, the better. But if you watch the video that I published about an hour and a half ago or so announcing the premiere, you can go to this in the description. There's a link to the site page where you can go find out more about the story and hear an excerpt from episode 1. But today, I go do that later. But today, I just want to quickly walk you guys through what we have done. We're still building this. Obviously, it's a work in progress. We're getting a lot done every day. It's going to be done by the time the 29th rolls around. I want to show you guys what is so cool about this and why I'm geeking out about it so much. So first off, it's an entire environment. When you walk like into this tile, you see on the bottom of the screen here, this little thing popped up that says you've entered a private space right there. Anytime you see furniture in this space, that's a private space. And what private spaces do is, like, if me and the other people watching the stream are all together at this premiere, we can go into these private spaces and just talk to each other. And if you're outside of the private spaces, i.e. in this case, not on the piece of furniture, you can't see or hear what we're talking about. So the first thing to know is that your webcam and microphone will be on if you want them to be on, and they'll be off if you want them to be off. If they're on and you approach someone else who also has them on, you can talk to them. So you're going to be able to talk to each other at this event. You're going to be able to hang out with your friends. You can see who else is online. Right now, one of our designers, Laura, is currently online. If I wanted to, I could go locate her on the map, and that would take me right to her if I followed that line. You can see she's up there chilling. I could message her directly. I could follow her if she was moving around. I'm going to stop locating for now. So yeah, we're inviting a whole mess of people. We're all going to chill and be together as we experience this. Let me show you some of the spaces. Again, this is the main lobby. We have a bar over here where at the beginning of the night, we're going to be making the night's signature cocktail, which is called The Twisting Place. Probably going to be a whiskey thing. I'm not making it though. A real legit bartender is making it. So hopefully it'll be better than what I make, which is clearly just whiskey and ice. Let's walk up here. Up on the balcony, we go into Theater Row. Theater Row leads us to 3 theaters. The main theater is the one here in the middle. And you see when I walked up to that thing, it glows. If I hit X, that just tells me what this room is. It's a main auditorium. Here we've got these little kiosks sprinkled throughout the location. These take a second to load, but they're going to bring us to the night schedule. Here we go. So these are the live events that we will be hosting as the night goes on. You can see happening now is highlighted. So as the night goes on, we'll highlight which event we're on, where it is, brief descriptions of all the events. We've also got a featurettes tab here, so you can see all the featurettes that are here and where they are in the physical location. So if you're attending the event, you'll be able to interact with a bunch of various things. What that kind of looks like, this is one of our side theaters. This is a small movie theater. Off the side, you can see here that on the bottom left of the screen, when I walked in, a little video popped up. Let me make it full screen here. So this is the Two Sound Podcast interview with Thorne Mooney a few episodes ago. Very cool interview. Check it out. You can watch this. So the featurettes will be like, that video won't be there on the night. This will be a different featurette. The featurettes will be, you can play them at any time. And the main episodes will stream live. So everybody's going to be in the main theater together. And then at the end of an episode, I'll come on screen. I'll say, okay, everybody go have fun for 20 minutes. And this is what is happening live if you want to attend that. And if you want to just browse around and check out the featurettes, feel free. If you want to do other stuff, feel free. So basically the way the night's going to work is like episode, go have fun. Episode, go have fun. Episode, go have fun for 6 episodes. We're expecting the actual main part of the night to go somewhere in the neighborhood of like 9 or 9:30. We're not really sure yet. We'll know as we get closer to the day, but it's going to be a few hours probably. In addition to all of that, let me take you back through the main lobby here, show you some of the other rooms. There's also a bunch of embedded stuff that's semi-related to the event and semi-not related to the event. Sorry, I keep looking over there. I've got it open on a second monitor. This is the library. And if you interact with this note, you can see here that we've got a little featurette that is going to tell us more about the history of the Cochran murder, which is the murder that our audio series is based on. And you can see popping up there, there's our actor who is in this audio series who's going to tell you about the featurette. Or it's going to tell you about the murder. Excuse me. So we have a bunch of like featurettes and interactive elements, video elements that are going to be sprinkled throughout the entire space. Then we also have stuff like this over here on the right. We have this whiteboard and this note. These are for a live event. If we open this up, you see here that we basically just have like a Microsoft Paint sort of thing where we can type text like that, or we can draw. Yay, drawing. This is related to a live event on the night of the premiere after episode 3, I think. One of the characters in the audio series who is a poet, who plays a poet, is going to be doing a poetry corner, which is basically Mad Libs. So he's going to be adjusting this poem here based off of the words that the audience gives him. We did a rehearsal on it yesterday. It was hilarious. Most of the events are meant to be hilarious, fun. The audio series itself is very serious and very intense. So it's kind of like after every episode, it's like, oh, okay, let's blow off some steam and go have some fun. So all the events are mostly fun, sort of, lighthearted stuff. Let's go check out the basement. All right, this is the basement where our protagonist, Marina Bishop, records a fictional podcast with her good friend, Tyler Aldean, in the audio series. The fictional podcast is called Twisted Salem, which is right here in the middle. It's like a true crime horror paranormal podcast. And while we're on the subject of Twisted Salem, I got something. You see how bright I am today? I feel like I'm gonna pass out with joy. Not a weird week to be so full of joy. We can talk about this week if you guys want to. Today's just like a let's browse around in this environment, let's talk kind of day. Check this out though. Let me switch scenes so you can see me a little bit bigger. I want to show you something. Check this out. That's a pin, an enamel pin. Let me get one out of the wrapper here so you can see what it looks like. We got these made. Laura Austin, the designer of this affair, designed these. This is what they look like out of the thing. So it's like a little pin you stick on your thing. Here, let me stick one on for the remainder of this. Let's see. How about there? I'm going to stab myself. That's what's going to happen. There we go. Boom. Ba-dum. All right. These enamel pins. All right, let's go back to the room. You can get one of those enamel pins, by the way. We'll talk about that in a second. So, in this room, our protagonist, Marina Bishop, records a fictional podcast. Thank you, Eden. Fictional podcast with her good friend Tyler Aldean called Twisted Salem. So that's what this big thing is in the middle. You're going to hear Twisted Salem. It's literally the first thing you hear in the audio series is an episode of Twisted Salem that they're recording. It's a very kind of punk rock paranormal podcast that I desperately wish was real. Also in this room, you can see here, this is where they record it. Got 2 microphones, speakers, computers. We got a little bed here with a kitty on it that I wish you could interact with, but you can't. Maybe we'll figure out some way to interact with the cat. We got the Scream and Friday the 13th masks on the wall. We got a pool table that is a private space. So if somebody was over here on that other blue, on this little blue stool, we would be able to see and talk to each other. We got a little ping pong table, but then I want to show you this here. This desk, you see on the bottom it says press X to solve Sudoku together. So let's press X. We have a Sudoku puzzle in progress. This is probably the simplest manifestation of something else that is happening at this premiere, which is games. Here we have Pictionary, which is actually Drawosaurus. Over here we have Texas Hold'em Poker. We have a sign-up sheet for that poker game. And basically, if you're sitting at this table playing poker, you're in a private space where you can only see the people who are playing poker. Sometimes the poker doesn't open in the correct tab, so it just has a little message there saying, hey, if you need to open this in a new tab, go ahead, open in a new tab. But yeah, you'll be sitting at this table playing poker with, I think, up to 10 people, chilling, you know, placing bets, doing things. We have a bunch of these kinds of things throughout the night. Elsewhere, I can't show it to you quite yet, but elsewhere we have arcade games, like Tetris, old school arcade games that you can play as the night goes on. And again, as the evening is going on, what you want to do between every episode is completely up to you. So you can come if you're in the mood to game with other people. The basement is probably the best place to do it. If you're in the mood to play some retro video games, you're going to go elsewhere in the space. The entire evening culminates in an after party, the location of which I will not quite reveal to you just yet because that's kind of a mum's the word experience. But let's go check out some other spaces that we have ready to show for now. We have the Tarot Parlor over here on the left. Let's go have a look. Ooh, spooky hallway. Leading into our Tarot Parlor. In this room, we will have an actor who plays a tarot reader in the audio series, who is also a comedian in real life. And I don't think she actually knows anything about tarot. She's going to be doing hilariously misinformed tarot readings in a joyful, buoyant spirit of fun and frivolity. Not serious tarot readings, but yeah, one of the live events is you'll be able to come in here and get a tarot reading live from her. These bookshelves are probably also going to be important, he said with a wink and a nod. If you are watching this, you might want to keep these bookshelves in mind for the day of the premiere. I'm not going to say anything else about it, but what that does lead me to is that we are also designing this thing to have a bunch of hidden Easter eggs and experiences that you may not be able to find. You know, kind of a good luck, see if you can get to it kind of thing. And since you are watching the live show, I'll let you in on the fact that these bookshelves will likely be one of those secret hidden things. Don't tell anybody. All right, so this is the Tarot Parlor. This is the hallway leading to the Tarot Parlor. You see here we have a wand, a sword, a pentacle, and a cup from the tarot suits. So yeah, basically the way this night is gonna work is like we have this massive space for everybody to explore. You're going to explore stuff between the episodes. Go check out live events if you want. Go check out, you know, featurettes if you want. There's going to be giveaways where we're giving away exclusive merch. I'm wearing a prototype of one now. This is the Tower-inspired Lynn Lady t-shirt. We have a tarot card. Let me show you that. Let's switch back here. It's almost like I know what I'm doing. I do. Laura Austin, our designer, also designed this Tower-inspired tarot card. Whoop. Focus. This camera does not focus. You can see there, kind of, it says the Lynn Lady on the front. It's a tower scene. Here, let me open it on the second monitor here so you can see the card in all of its glory. Hold, please. There it is. It looks like the tower. We have the Tower Tarot card, the Rider-Waite Tarot card. We have a big mill smokestack here. Leather Mill is a tremendously important location in the audio series. We have a car that is in a state of wreckage. Looks like kind of an older car. We have a factory down here. We have a road with tire marks, something that looks like a car accident, and lightning striking the smokestack. This gives you a little bit of indication of what the series itself is like. We're dealing with timey-wimey stuff. We're dealing with cataclysmic events. We're dealing with the merging of the past and the present. We're dealing with a lot of really cool speculative horror, ghosty sort of stuff. So we got a bunch of these printed, and then on the backs of them, they have just text from about the premiere event. This card, this bookmark, which has all of the events that are going to be at the premiere. See there, with little moons marking what the live events are. What else? This QR code thingy, which tells you about the event if you scan it, and just has the information about the event. And then the enamel pin, bloop, which we got there. These are all part of the VIP package ticket. If you decide to get a VIP ticket, you get all that in the mail as a part of your ticket. And then you get a bunch of stuff on the night of the event too. Access to exclusive VIP areas, a Discord server that's only for VIP people. Just a really cool, kind of exclusive experience. So that's the thing, everybody. That is what we are launching toward on the night of December 29th. Check out the video I uploaded for a link to where you can find out more. Maybe I'll put it in chat here too. Let's see if I can do that like and let's pretend that I was prepared to do so before we even started. Here we go. Let's put it in chat. Bloop. I hope that has popped up for all of you. It says it's on Twitch, it says it's on YouTube, and it says it's on Facebook. Beautiful. Lovely. All right. We have been successful. There we go. That's what we're planning for the night of the 29th. Tickets are limited. VIP tickets are very limited. We're only doing 75 of those because we're limited by the merch that we were able to get made. And then regular tickets are also limited because we, cool, thank you, Eden, because we have server space to consider in the game environment. So I think it's the coolest thing ever. I'm stupid excited about it. Everybody's going to be hanging out there. As a viewer of this podcast or live, whatever, as a viewer of the Two Salem live shows, you get a 10% discount for watching the live episodes here. If you would like to attend, go to that link and it'll take you to where tickets are. And you can use the promo code, all lowercase, horror, HORROR. There you go, for 10% off. Just for you, because I love you. It is really cool, isn't it, Eden? Yeah, it's gonna be mind blowing, man. The thing is, like, we were planning to do a live screening from the start, but this is a fairly recent development. We just kind of came across this software, and as a team, we were like, could we do this? And we started playing with it, and we're like, yeah, we totally could. So it's, I mean, and here's the other thing too. Playing around with this software, I'll just keep kind of running through it as we're talking a bit. Just playing around with this as a writer and director, since I wrote and directed the audio series, the last one and this one, it's also got my mind spinning, like, what could you do with this? Like, I wrote the audio series before we found this, but now I'm wondering, what could you do with an interactive piece of media with this software? If you were like starting from a point of writing for this, like, I didn't write it for this, we're just doing the screening here. But imagine if we got a piece, like a story that's taking you to the locations, like this basement that we're going to, the gaming basement here, is a location in the audio series. Every time you hear this fictional podcast, Twisted Salem, it's coming from this room. Like, this is where they're recording it, in our little fantasy world. But now I started thinking, like, what could you do if you were writing something from knowing that you had this, like, for the user to experience as they were experiencing the audio drama or the movie or whatever. So yeah, I'm blown away by it, Eden. I think it's the coolest thing ever. There's going to be way more events than you see here. We've only got this thing probably about halfway done, but everything's planned. Here's the map. Fancy map. Letting you in on the creative process. just me drawing things on a piece of paper. Here's the night's events, also just me drawing things on a piece of paper. I'm very fancy with my tools. Hey, I want to tell you guys what's coming up this month. And then I want to open the floor to talk about some stuff because this week, man. Yeah, let me tell you what we're working on this week or this month, and then I'm going to open the floor up a little bit because I think if you're watching this, we might need to maybe talk about some stuff. So this month, the thing that the live show that I'm really interested in this month, Friday's live show, hopefully next Friday, is on glossolalia, which is, see if anybody can tell me what that is before I tell you what it is. Glossolalia. You have 10 seconds. See how fast you can Google. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Speaking in tongues is glossolalia. I don't actually know how to pronounce it. Here's the thing. I was talking with Ellie, Two Salem writer, recently about language, and she is a witch, straight up, witch. And so every time we have conversations about the esoteric, I'm generally coming from a kind of like hodgepodge perspective, and she's coming from a very witchcraft perspective. And we were talking about language the other day, and ritualistic language, ceremonial language, sort of like the words that are used to compose spells, and the words that are used during spell work that you compose yourself. And we were thinking about language, period. And this sent me on this rabbit hole of Terence McKenna and a little bit of The Invisibles and a bunch of other sources about language in magic and language combined, and the limiting factors of language. Like if you just I'll talk about it a lot, hopefully next Friday, because I'm building the whole, like we did for Chaos Magic, I'm building the whole presentation for it. I wish I could do those every week. I don't know if I can, because it takes a lot of effort to just can coalesce my thoughts and put it all together and everything. So the next one is going to be on speaking in tongues and language, probably language specifically, and then speaking in tongues as a part of it. If you think about, like, this is a question for the chat. I know we've got very people who come from a New Age tradition who watch the live show. I'm very curious what you think about this, and we'll probably talk about it in the next live show. So your answers are going to inform what happens here. When you do spell work, okay, let's say you're doing a spell that was originally written by, I don't know, someone, an Italian person in 1820, that's then been translated into contemporary English. The language, right? There are, just on a fundamental level, there are plenty of words in Italian. I don't know what they are because I don't speak Italian, but I do kind of understand a few other languages. And something I know from personal experience, I'm sure most people know, is that there are plenty of words in other languages that have no adequate translations into English, and vice versa. There are plenty of entire ideas that you can't really translate. In fact, Terence McKenna makes an argument that you can't really translate anything if you get down to the bottom level of it. Like the word house, let's say, in Italian, in Chinese, in the vocal intonation that we reference as an object called a house carries with it connotations and contextual understanding across languages and even across regions. When I think of a house, for instance, the first thing I think of is a double wide trailer. There's probably a bunch of reasons I can point that out, but from my own experience, but that's the point, is that it's coming from my experience. The language is contextual, it is subjective, and it's housed within the human experience, which means that it's ever shifting, it's ever changing. So here's the question then. When you have like a spell that has been translated from another language and passed through time, so that all of the, or the vast majority of the contextual underpinnings of it are lost through time, or at least they're not understood by the practitioner, the contemporary practitioner who's doing the spell. What exactly is going on there, language-wise? I think the sort of chaos magic perspective would be that the words don't ultimately matter, that it's all about the intent. But then there's a whole school of other people who say, no, the words are desperately important. And not only the words, but when and how you say them is desperately important. There's a whole stream of correspondences that must be adhered to. And if they are not, it will not be an effective spell working. I'm fascinated by this idea of the limitations of language, first off, because it is kind of a limiting thing, especially when you're talking about spell work. Spell work is, back me up here, chat. Spell work is subconscious. It really is. Like, I find myself drifting farther and farther into this realm where I do not care if there is any external deity. Jessie said that in our last podcast. Go watch that. She said that, and when she said it, I was like, I think I might agree with her, that I don't care. Pronouncing spell in language I don't. Eden says, pronouncing the spell in a language I don't understand would be another way to take my conscious mind out of the equation. But then don't you need your conscious mind in the equation a little bit, just purely for intent, would be my response to that. I agree that if you don't understand the language you're speaking, it could then in a way become sort of a sigil-esque process where you don't really know what you're saying, you just kind of understand what it means. But there's something lost there. I'm not saying any way is preferable or better, I just think it's fascinating. But yeah, I find myself more and more thinking, I don't care if deities are real. I don't care. And I don't care. And the reason I don't care is because I'm coming more and more around to the side of things that when you do, let's get super pragmatic about it. Okay, super pragmatic. Let's say you do I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example that is currently happening. What you're seeing on this other screen here, this Twisted Salem basement, this entire audio series, all of it, and the audio drama that came before it, all of it, the entire idea of crafting like new ways of storytelling to suit what is our new reality, basically, which is none of us are going to movie theaters anymore. None of us are going out to clubs anymore, et cetera, et cetera. That entire idea has appeared to me, I would say, as a result of a series of ritualistic and ceremonial workings. I don't actually, I feel like I'm a player in something. Does that make sense? I don't feel like I'm sitting down and I'm like wrestling stories into submission and I'm writing them and I'm crafting. It doesn't feel masculine to me, even though it is, as a writer director, it is my energy pushing it forward, right, and making sure everything pushes forward. But what it actually feels like is receptive. It feels like I'm listening, being told to do certain things. My instincts are guiding me, and I'm trusting that those instincts are being guided by something else, and I'm following that. And that is translating into the coolest thing I've ever been a part of. To me, I think this is so rad. So that's kind of what I mean, like that listening, that capacity for listening and thinking more about high magic instead of low magic, divine will as opposed to desire, let's say, is leading to subconscious mental changes in me, which are then manifesting out in the world. So even if you remove magic from the equation, like Hollywood magic from the equation, or spiritual magic from the equation, if you remove all of that and you just say, okay, let's just get purely material about it, and say what's happening is I've decided that I want to be doing this kind of stuff. I'm tricking my mind into believing that I'm part of some universal conversation, which then gives me an inflated sense of responsibility, which pushes me on to then execute on the things that feel instinctually good. Remove all spiritual components from it, and it still works exactly the same way. That is magic. That's exactly what we mean when we talk about magic. It's about taking some sort of desire or intent or will or something like that, putting it out some way in some ceremonial ritualistic fashion, and then having it manifest into material reality. There's no difference if there is an external, in terms of the process and the result, there's no difference if there's an external deity pushing it into being or not, right? This is why I'm starting not to care, because it works either way. You can either believe in it or not believe in it. It still works. Let's look at the chat. Eden. I think it would have to involve preparation, right? Knowing that the intent is beforehand and later going with the original language. Yeah, yes, I agree. I totally agree. But what if there's stuff in the original language that is contrary to the intent? Let's say. Lisa says, deity is an energy pattern as we are an energy pattern, in my opinion, and can be a good relationship and guides, but not absolutely a necessary one. Yeah. And what if there is a distinction between how you interact with deity and how you interact with desire? High and low magic, that classical distinction. We've lost some of that, The New Age movement, not to throw shade, but I think we could all probably agree that the New Age movement has muddied those waters a little bit. And chaos magic, too, has muddied those waters a little bit about the distinction between... I read in a chaos magic book the other day that the distinction between low magic and high magic is arbitrary, and that it was something like people who engage in... who understand that there's a difference, that somehow proves that they are naive. That thinking that there was a distinction between low and high magic makes you naive. And I think that the author's point was something like, everything's on the table. So this was chaos magic again. Everything's on the table. So it doesn't matter if you're working from desire or you're quieting your mind and trying to listen and working from the instinctual, synchronistic sort of responses you're getting from being or trying to be in a state of listening, which I think but I disagree. Wholeheartedly, I disagree. I think they're tremendously different. Like just take a second, right? To just sort of center yourself, take a breath, and ask yourself, feel the way that these two things feel if you put them in yourself. Imagine that you're the ones doing this spell work that I'm about to say, okay? Here's spell work number 1. This is the New Age. Look at my microphone. It's covered in cat hair. This is spell work number 1, okay? This is the New Agey, chaos magic-y, desire-based thing. I am broke. I am going to do a spell. I find it on a web page or a book, and it tells me, like a recipe, like a cooking recipe, it materially breaks down the correspondences, the astral alignments, the deities, etc., etc. It materially breaks all those things down, breaks down what those things want, right? Candles placed on these places, offerings placed in these places, and then the actual performance of the ritual itself. I'm going to memorize those things, do them, and I expect then that the universe or whatever deities I'm speaking to are going to hear that request and reshape the order of the cosmos to give me money. Here's a question. Where's that money coming from? If you've got more of it, something else has less of it. That's the first question. Where's it coming from? Who are you stealing it from? Who are you taking it from? Because you're not earning it, right? You're taking it. You're asking for something to take it on your behalf or to create it on your behalf. That's just the basic, questions you have to consider when you're doing a spell like that, I think. But then the high magic sort of response to that would be something like, I'm broke. I don't like being in a mental state, in a world state of want. Yeah, I feel you. I don't like being in a state of deprivation. I don't like being in a state of despair. Oftentimes, when I turn on the news and I see people whose worldviews and political worldviews I don't tend to agree with socially, the way that I have empathy and mercy and grace toward those people typically is I remember what it was like to be super poor, which I've been there in my life, both as a child and an adult. I've been in a state where I couldn't go out and go to the store and reasonably expect that I could buy whatever I wanted at the grocery store for the next 2 weeks to feed me and my family, and that it was okay. That however, like, I didn't have to look at my bank account before I went. I didn't have to check, to see how much was in my checking account, that I could just go get groceries and it was okay. I've been in that state for years of my life where I have to look at that account before I go to that grocery store. I have to check it meticulously. I have to think about the weeks ahead. I have to think about the months ahead. I have to calculate my entire financial setup before I go and get food for me and my family. I've been there. Oftentimes for me, that leads to a place of despair. Despair. Anytime I talk about politics with people, I end up in a state of despair, which is not healthy. But I get there and then I realize I'm there and I'm like, God, why couldn't I just figure out a way to not land there? Despair is not good for the mind. It closes all doors of potentiality. It shuts out all possibilities of exit from itself. It's a cancer. It's horrible. It's a horrible mental and emotional state to find yourself in. Even if you, and perhaps especially if you think that the things that led you there are justified, it will kill you. It will. If you let your brain stay in a state of despair, it will kill you. It will destroy everything around you. It's serious. It's no joke. And I've been there. I know what it's like. So when I see people that I don't agree with their worldview, I know where they're coming from, because I know that despair leads you to immense depression or immense rage. Either one. I just happen to be a personality type that ends up in depression. But I know people, I love people who are the opposite, who end up enraged after a period of despair. So, random tangent. But the point is that if you're listening to a state of high magic, or trying to engage with a state of high magic where you're listening to deity, you're feeling out the cosmos, you're trying to see yourself as a part of a greater cosmic chain, you're doing that entire thing. If you're embarking upon a process like that, then instead of saying, I'm going to do spell work to get X amount of money, you would say something like, I'm going to engage in these ceremonial acts every day. It's habitual. I'm going to reorient my brain, to reorient my place in the cosmos, and say, I don't want to be in despair, even if I am poor. I don't want to be in a state of want. I don't want to be in a state of waiting to see what horrible thing the universe is going to land on me next. I refuse to live like that. I refuse to be that person. I refuse it. And I'm going to literally engage the universal deity construct as I see it, the pantheon of the most powerful forces in the universe. I'm going to engage them in a relationship so that we can change me, so that we can change my mind, so that we can find roads out of this that are inside me, inside my worldview. Sorry, I had the microphone there. You probably just got a loud bang. Apologies. Inside my worldview, I'm going to shift my spiritual self to not be in a state of want, even if my physical self is. It's a huge difference between that and I'm going to do a spell to get some money. Massive difference. Let's look at the chat. Eden, a lot of writers say the same. Characters talk to them, the story unfolds organically. Eden, I'm a crazy person. if you can't tell, I'm a crazy person. That is true in my experience. I'm currently working on an idea that I think might end up being a feature film. One of my goals for 2020 is I desperately want to write a feature film and maybe make one. My first short film finished this year. It is now submitted to festivals. We'll see. I'm hoping to premiere it at Tribeca Festival. So if you know anybody at Tribeca, call in your favors, damn it. I'm hoping to do a feature film this year, or get far along the path of doing a feature film this year. And Eden, the process of writing that film is literally, I sit in my little writing space. I put on music. I take out my journal. The music is usually like delta waves or something like that. Something that's very stimulating mentally for me and meditative mentally. And sometimes I smoke a little and I drift. And then images appear, people appear with my eyes closed, and I write them down. And then the next day, I pop that thing open and I look at it, and there's entire worlds there, entire storylines. Yeah, they talk to you. Of course they talk. I completely agree. Your characters, your story, it talks to you. Lisa says, I think the interaction would be the same as they're both patterns, whether we give the pattern a face or not. The interaction between yourself and deities, is that what you mean? Eden says, I'm over chaos magic authors who act like chaos magic is an intellectual achievement, to be honest. I agree that in some ways it's all the same, but that doesn't make me better than any other practitioner. I feel that sentiment, Eden, for sure. I think any magical practitioner who thinks that their craft is an intellectual achievement has probably missed the point. Bold statement, but this isn't intellectual work only. This is comprehensive work. So it has to be an achievement. A synchronicity can be an achievement. It totally can. If you do some sort of spell working or ritual working or ceremonial working, and then you have a synchronistic occurrence that you believe are totally connected to that synchronistic achievement or that synchronistic working, that's an achievement, and it sure ain't an intellectual one. So yeah, I agree. I'm over that too. Lisa, the face of the deity or face of emotion or concept like desire. Okay, so what you're saying, I think the interaction between you and the deity, or you and the emotion, you and the concept like desire, would be the same as they're both patterns, where we give the pattern a face or not. Yeah, I think we're saying basically the same thing. I agree. Yeah, whether you are giving the deity or deity set or anything. I mean, it could be Batman. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you are working with doesn't really ultimately matter. It doesn't necessarily have to matter. We are face of deity. I'll come back to that. Let me think on that. Lisa, I think you also have to consider that action is part of manifestation. Action is also a part of manifestation. Yeah, homegirl. Yes. Baby witches. Any baby witches watching this? Action's a part of it. It's a big part of it. Big. You know how you get more money in life outside of spell work? You make more money. Eden says, for sure, changing our own mindset is huge, much more effective in the long term. And yes, I am crazy. Haha. But it's quite entertaining. Congrats on the creative work. Thanks, Eden. I think we're going to be doing a lot of this in 2021. A lot of creative, witchy, sort of work that is less. You know what I don't like? Let's talk about what I don't like. Let's get real, because this whiskey's kicking in. I watch a lot of esoteric, pagan-y, witchy content. I read a lot of it too. And here's what I don't like. 5 love spells to get your man back. I don't like that. Let's just think about that. Let's swap the genders because of the world we live in. 5 love spells to get your woman back. All right. Let's say I do a spell. Let's say I, cis appearing anyway, white male in America, do a love spell to get my ex back, which wouldn't happen because I have no interest in getting my ex back. I'm happily married. Let's say I do a spell like that though, and my ex is, has a family in Colorado. I'm thinking of Utah. I watched a house flipping show that featured a lot of Mormons last night. So let's say my ex is like a Mormon in Utah with 17 children, a multi-million-dollar home. Everybody's blonde hair, blue-eyed, and gorgeous, and they're all Mormons, and they have this great community, and they're a little strange, but everybody's a little strange. It's fun. So let's say I do that spell and it works. And it shatters her life. Shatters it. And then she comes back to me I realized that now she's a Mormon and we have no grounds to relate to each other. I'm like, never mind. Think about the implication, the material implications of living in a world or having a worldview where those sorts of things are possible, where those sorts of things are easily achievable. It's weird, right? So baby witches, yes, action matters. Action matters. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I could go on, clearly. Okay. Eden's groaning into the void. Yeah, I feel you. Guys, I'm so excited about this little world that we have here on the bottom right. I'm so excited about this year. I know things are weird right now. I don't want to talk about what's going on right now. I don't, because I feel like part of why you're here is because you probably don't want to talk or think about what's going on right now. So I brought it up and I'm sorry. But if I'm wrong about that, let me know. I have plenty of hopeful, optimistic, wonderful, bright, beautiful, sunny, light-bringery things to say about what's going on right now. But I understand, I'm talking about the US, but I understand if you don't want to hear that. So I'm going to put a pause on that. But I will just say, I am not depressed, and I'm not saddened, and I'm not surprised, and it's going to be okay. There's a bunch of reasons why it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I think it's going to be okay. Me and my infinite expertise. I think it's going to be okay. Okay. You're saying in the chat. Listen, a lot of people are throwing out, and I want to talk about this just esoterically, not politically, because whatever your political ideas are, they're yours. And all of that is contextual and it's subjective. And I know that there's nothing I could say to even touch that because it has been lodged so deeply in all of us that it is a part of who we are. It is a part of who we are, right? That's why it's hard to talk about politics, because there's been a concerted effort in my entire lifetime, and I would guess for the past, since the 60s, maybe even a little before, certainly since the 60s, to make people in America believe that their political identity is a huge component of who they are. I won't speak to how true I think that is, other than that it's not true. Your political identity is only as much of a part of you as you let it be, just like anything else. Just like anything else. My mom, God bless her, she's probably watching this. My mom smoked for, 30 years? 30 years she smoked cigarettes. And I hope I'm not revealing too much. Text me, Mom, if I'm revealing something awful about you. I don't mean to. It's going to be good in the end. My mom smoked for 30 years-ish, roughly. I have always, for my entire life, thought of my mom as a smoker, as has she. And she quit. Almost a year ago now. She quit. She is no longer that person. She has removed that moniker from her identity. She has taken over that part of her identity and said, you know what? This isn't for me anymore. I'm done. I am no longer a part of this culture and everything that comes along with it. And of course, that's hard and it's a fight, but you can do it. Just like politics. It's only as much a part of you as you want it to be. So that's the first thing. To the degree that it's even a part of you, it doesn't have to be. So if that's the first hopeful thing. The second thing, there is no going back from what has happened this week. There is no going back. It is a moment in time that has had material and energetic resonances that will reverberate outward for years at the very least. Now that's scary. That's scary. When something like that happens, you feel a palpable sense of the tectonic plates under you aligning to some new state, some new way of being. We all have lived through moments like that. Maybe this is your first. I have certainly lived through moments like that. Global moments. 9/11 springs to mind. The invasion of Iraq springs to mind. These moments where you're watching the news and you know that, yeah, yes, go mom. That's Patrick's my stepdad. He's awesome. He and I bonded over Tenacious D many years ago. We have all lived through these moments before. What is interesting to watch now, I think, is the attempts of people in power to convince or try to convince everyone that this isn't one of those moments. And the attempts on the other side of the spectrum to convince people that it is. What's interesting to me about that is that we all know it is. We can all feel it. Can we? Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong in the chat. We can feel it. When we look at those images and we look at those videos, we can feel it. This is different. This is a precipice. This is going somewhere we've not gone before, literally, ever. So, political ramifications aside, what is energetically, esoterically good about that is what is energetically and esoterically good about the tower, our little version of the tower. Okay? Let's look at Rachel. She's somewhere behind me. Yeah. Hold on. Hold on. Be right back. I love this book. God, everything's falling apart. I love this book, 78 Degrees of Wisdom. This is if you are interested in the tarot, but you've never read anything about the tarot, and you are looking for an introductory book about the tarot, I cannot recommend 78 Degrees of Wisdom highly enough. It is a fantastic book about the tarot. Why it is fantastic is it teaches you not just, the correspondences and all that stuff about every tarot card, but it teaches you why these things are this way. It helps you to understand the story. So let's look up the Tower card, which again, my audio series is kind of based on a little moment of sentience there. Let me find it. 24, 1 second. Sorry, as usual, I'm not prepared at all. We're gonna flip through here. Oh, the index. Is that how books work? All right, index. Tower, where are you? 117. If you have this book at home, read along. All right, here we go. I need an overhead camera so you can see the books as I'm reading them. Here's what Rachel says about the Tower. A little bit. She's written a long chapter about it. Again, Rachel Pollack, 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Wonderful book. Okay. Like the devil. I need to just hold up. Here, let me put my Tower card back on the other screen here. So we can all see at least my version of the Tower. Our version of the Tower. Not like I made it, because I totally didn't. There we go. Beautiful. All right, this is what Rachel says about the Tower. The Tower is said to be the materialist conception of the universe, and the lightning, the destruction that comes to a life based on purely materialist principles. Listening? Purely materialist principles. Even here, we find a great deal of subtlety. While it may appear that some outside force strikes down the narrow-minded person, the violence shown in the card actually derives from psychological principles. The person who lives only to satisfy the ego demands of wealth, fame, and physical pleasure, ignoring both introspection and the spiritual beauty of the universe, raises a prison around himself. Let us ponder this. What Rachel's saying here, and I tend to agree with because I have been one of these people at various points in my life, as I'm sure you have as well if you're an honest, introspective person. I've been a jackass at various states in my life. And you know what happens when you're a jackass? You make your own prison. And then you wake up one day and you find that you're alone. You find that you're isolated. You find that you don't know what to do or where to go because you've put yourself in a prison. These things are their own punishments in a lot of ways. So you don't need punishment because they are punishment. First off, let's keep going. We see this prison as the tower, gray, rock-bound with a gold crown. At the same time, a pressure builds up inside the mind as the unconscious strains at its bonds. God, a strained, bonded unconscious. Ugh, God, the power that has. A horrible, ugly power. Dreams become disturbed, arguments and depression more common, and if a person represses these manifestations as well, the unconscious will often find some way to explode. The unconscious will find some way to explode. Think about this week. Think about it. The unconscious will find some way to explode. Let's keep going. The explosion may appear as an external disaster, your friends and family turning against you, your work collapses, and violence of one kind or another swirls around you. And it is true that some of the mysteries of life is the way that bad luck comes into clusters. Yet, how many of these problems result from long neglected or mishandled situations, striking us at the moment we become vulnerable? I'm leaving a lot of silence in here because we need to let this in a little. And if some problems, illness or death of people close to us, economic problems in society, even natural disasters such as storms or lightning bolts appear at the same time as personal problems, such coincidence shows again that life does indeed contain more than we can see in front of us. There are a lot of people in whose best interest it is to convince you that what I just said is not true. And that all that is true is what you can see directly in front of you. That screen. That goddamn screen. We should not think that the psyche or life brings on disaster simply to punish us. The drops of fire falling, one each side of the tower, are shaped like the Hebrew letter Yod. Let me pull up the Rider-Waite Tower so we can see what the card that Rachel's talking about, even though this card that Laura designed is beautiful. Ugh, God. I hate when you type something with one hand and then it's not what you wanted. I need an assistant. Okay. Boom. This is the card she's talking about. All right. This is the artistic depiction of this card. Very, very small. There you go. Slightly bigger. All right. Continuing on. Read that again. The drops of fire falling, one each side of the tower, are shaped like the Hebrew letter Yod, the first letter of God's name. Think about the symbolism. Those drops of fire you see coming out of the cataclysmic scene are shaped like the first letter of God's name. Think about that. What does that say, metaphorically? God comes from it. Or God is rooted in it. They symbolize not anger, but grace. Grace. The universe and the human mind will not allow us to stay forever imprisoned in our towers of illusion and repression. If we cannot free ourselves peacefully, then the forces of life will arrange an explosion. Think about this week. Hold on to it. This is, again, Rachel, if you're just joining us. Rachel Pollack, 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Brilliant book. I do not mean to imply that we in any way enjoy the painful experiences that shake us loose, or that we can see the beneficial ends from such means. I certainly can't. But, or even that the process always results in freedom. It may not. Very often a series of disasters or a period of violent emotions will cripple a once strong personality, he says, taking a long sip. A once strong personality. The point is only that given no other outlets, the unconscious will erupt all around us, and that we can use this experience to find a better balance. Some decks call this card the Tower, which you're seeing on the right side of your screen. Some decks call this card the House of the Devil. The House of the Devil destroyed. Let it in. Let it in. Think about it. Feels true, don't it? But others call it the House of God, reminding us that it is spiritual force which destroys our psychic prisons. Yeah, Erica. Hey, Erica, what's up, girl? Erica's great. Why take, skipping a paragraph here, why take such a dangerous course? Why? Why destroy the tower? Let's go on. Think about this week. The answer is that no other way exists to finally go beyond the barrier of consciousness, or to break free from that which separates life into opposites. Break free from that which separates life into opposites. Us and them, me and you, Republicans and Democrats. Break free. Break free, she says, from that which separates life into opposites, and which cuts us off from the pure energy contained within ourselves. The veil across the temple is the conscious personality protecting us from life itself. As mystics, shamans, and ecstatics have testified, eternity is all around us, blinding and overwhelming. The unprepared mind cannot encompass such power, and so consciousness comes to our rescue, closing off the major part of our spiritual energy, parceling experience into time and opposing categories. Think about what she's saying. Think about what she's saying. And think about what she's saying in the context of this week, this cataclysmic week from which there is no return. We can never go back to a world where this did not happen. It happened. She is saying that the entire idea of opposites needs to be eradicated. She's saying that the reason we do that in the first place is because we can't comprehend divinity or the all. Perfectly natural reason to do it. But what then is the solution? It's to put your eyes in the right place. Put your eyes on the light. The mystics tell us, reading again, as well, that revelation comes as a lightning bolt, which destroys the illusions of the material world in a single blinding flash, like that seen by Paul on his way to Damascus, or that which struck Buddha under the bow tree. No matter how long the meditation, had a little burp there. Sorry, Rachel, I'm ruining your work with gastric expulsions. No matter how long the meditation, the years of prayer, or occult training, the truth comes all at once, or it does not come at all. God, the truth comes all at once, or it does not come at all. Which is not to say that the preparation was meaningless. The work shown in the first 2 lines of the major arcana serves as a double purpose. Not only does it make us strong enough to withstand the lightning when it comes, not if, when, it also puts us in a position to bring about the lightning. Bring about the lightning. That's what self-work is, isn't it? Not reading anymore. That's what self-work is. Bringing about the lightning in yourself. That's what ritualistic practice as a means toward pragmatic self-growth determines self-growth. Self-growth spread out across time and personalities within oneself. That's what it's about. It's about exposing your towers and striking them willfully. It's about seeing the ways in which you could be better, the ways in which you could have an experience that is more full, more balanced, more nuanced, more contextual. It's about seeing all of those areas and striking the towers that is keeping you from having them or living in them. Finding your own fortresses of desolation, your own fortresses of habitual, repetition, and a life that is filled with schematic understandings of a materialistic day over and over, the same dribble from 8 to 5 every single day. It's about finding those towers in oneself and destroying them before the cosmos can do it for you, because it will. And you better hope it doesn't do it on your deathbed, because if it does, you are screwed. I have seen it happen to someone on their deathbed. It ain't pretty, and there ain't no coming back if that's what happens to you. All right? You got to make it up in the next life if that ends up being you. Do you really want it to be you? I sure as hell don't. Let's skip forward a bit. Obviously, back to Rachel, this is a dangerous process. The unprepared person can become trapped in the illusions of the devil. Imagine not reading anymore. Imagine when you watch the news this week and you see these people who have done these things. Maybe you don't agree with them politically. Maybe you don't even understand them politically. But imagine that this is them. Unprepared person can become trapped in the illusions of the devil. Devil's a powerful force. It's a force of bondage. It's a force of willful enslavement. Willful. We're not talking about slaves who want to be emancipated here. We're talking about slaves who like the chains. What response is there to that state of being other than grace and mercy and God? I hope I'm never there. I hope my life is never sufficiently uninspiring enough, unsurprising enough, so that I end up in a place like that. We also, hold up, skipping back a bit. We will see also that the release of energy carries its own dangers. The release of energy carries its own dangers as the psyche tries to integrate it with the conscious awareness. The hero on the way back from the center of the labyrinth can become lost if he has not carefully prepared himself. Man, she goes on. This is like the 6th paragraph of probably 15. We could keep going. Put it in chat if you want me to keep going. I could certainly keep going. Rachel Pollack's genius person, and I would be glad to continue reading from her book, but that's a lot to chew on already. I understand if we just want to talk about that. The metaphysical implications of a week like this are, I think anyway, they are to me. Keep going. Okay, Erica says keep going. We'll keep going because that's what Erica wants. All right, we'll keep going. And then we'll come back to the metaphysical implications later. That was my little Bill Murray. What movie is that? That's what Bill Murray sounds like. Bad impression. The tower comes below the high priestess, for it shows the veil being ripped away. Let's see. I'm sure most of the people watching the show know what the high priestess looks like, but let's actually take a look at her in the Rider-Waite deck. The High Priestess, by the way, is yours truly's tarot card, numerologically. This is my card. There she is, in all her beauty. Slipping into horrible accents. That's the High Priestess. Okay? High Priestess there. She's between two pillars, one marked B, one marked J. There is the T-O-R-A, Torah, document there in her lap. She has a cross, not a crucifix, on her chest. She has a veil covered in trees and fruits between her, grapes, behind her, between the pillars, hiding whatever's behind them. I won't talk about the metaphysical implications or anything of the card just yet, because that's not what Rachel's talking about. And she has a crescent moon there at her feet. I'm just pointing out the symbolism going on in this card. Crescent moon at her feet, document with the letters T-O-R-A on it in her lap, cross, not a crucifix. This is a full moon and crescent moons there, sort of crown on her head, a veil behind her, hiding whatever space is behind her. Two pillars, B and J, white and black, opposite pillars. She is the number two card in the major arcana, hiding some blue, cool, watery looking space behind her. All of these are metaphysical correspondences, esoteric correspondences. There's a lot going on with this card, but that's not what Rachel's talking about, so we won't talk about it. Let's turn to chat a little bit before we jump back in. Lisa says, hate and violence starts with fear. I think they had some deep fear that they took to a place of outward aggression. I don't agree with what they did, but every action has a hidden beginning. That is a very graceful, merciful, peaceful, beautiful response to what's happening. Not filled with animus or despair, not filled with resignation or disgust, not filled with passivity, not filled with rage. A calm, measured expectation on some level and acceptance on some level, even if you don't agree with it. I love that response, Lisa. I really do. I think that's the place we got to get to. We got to get to that place. We got to. Because we can't go back. It's happened. It's happened. We got to deal with it now. Let's keep going with Rachel. Rachel Pollack again, if you're just joining. Rachel Pollack, 78 Degrees of Wisdom. This tower comes below the High Priestess, which you're seeing on screen now, for it shows the veil being ripped away. She's talking about the veil behind the High Priestess there. At the same time, the lightning recalls the Magician. Let's have a look at the Magician. I love this. We might just do this on every stream. We just read from some book and bring stuff up. Magician is the first card in the major arcana. That's what the Magician looks like. Just pointing out some of the correspondences and metaphysical implications of this card. He's holding a wand in his right hand, lifting it up to the heavens. He has an infinity symbol hovering above his head. First card in the major arcana comes either second or first in the deck, depending on how you interpret the Fool. A lot of people interpret the Fool, which is 0, as the first card in the major arcana. A lot of people interpret the Fool as the last card in the major arcana. A lot of people interpret the Fool as occurring at any place in the major arcana. That's personally my preferred interpretation, that card can go anywhere. So either this is the first or the second card in the major arcana, depending on your interpretation. He's got a wand upstretched toward the sky, through which he is channeling energy, pointing down with his left hand on our right to the ground, where we see a sprouting of flowers and vines. He has a table here. Well, first he has a sash, which is a fish or salamander or reptilian looking feature, binding his waist. He has a table in front of him with a sword, a cup, and a pentacle on it, and a wand, a staff, a stave, if you will, on the table. And then he again is holding a wand in his right hand. Again, not talking too much about the metaphysical implications of this card, but if you're new to it, the basic idea of the Magician is about manifestation. It's about drawing things from the divine, from heaven, from the etheric realm, let's say, through oneself into material reality. That's the basic idea of the Magician, is that it is possible and beautiful and lovely to engage in that process, which we might colloquially call magic. All right, that's what the Magician's all about. Okay, At the same time, the lightning recalls the magician. Let's bring up the tower again, wherever it is. There it is. At the same time, the lightning recalls the magician. The energy and truth which passes through the magician here strikes in full force. So that energy being conducted through his wand and his body and out his finger strikes the top of the tower card in full force. We also see trumps 1 and 2. That is the magician and high priestess. In the two people, one in blue, the other in a red cloak. Blue, red cloak. Important color alignment. Blue, typically receptive, divine feminine, receptive, emotional, intuitive, imaginative. Red, divine masculine, projective, willful. All right? Putting out, taking in. That's one of the myriad differences. The polarity symbolized in so many of the earlier cards is here overwhelmed by the polarity symbolized in so many of the earlier cards is here overwhelmed by the unity of existence. Count the yod drops of fire in the tarot card, and you will find that they come to 22. That is the number of trumps in the major arcana. Important. And that is exactly what Rachel says. We both say that. I agree. You'll find that they separate into 10 and 12. 10 on one side, 12 on the other. The Sumerians used a number system based off 10 for 10 fingers for worldly matters, but a separate system based on 12 for the zodiac, for spiritual counting. Someday we'll dive into numerology, I'm sure, in a bunch of different forms. The duality, though, is also an illusion. Both worlds are manifestations of the same spirit, fire. The image of a destroyed tower brings to mind the Tower of Babel. On a literal level, that story explains why people speak so many languages, while morally, it teaches us not to put our faith in human abilities. And in parentheses, she says, the tower as materialism. Do not put your faith in human abilities. No one's going to fix it. No one's going to fix it. But we can see another meaning in Babel's destruction. The lightning that struck it was God speaking directly to humanity, rather than indirectly through the ordinary phenomena of the physical world. What if we interpret this last week as God speaking to us? What does that mean? God's, whatever, divinity speaking to us. What are they saying? That those people are horrible, or that those people are patriots? That seems far too simple for the mind of the divine, don't it? I wonder why people would be trying to convince you that that is what you should take from this. It's almost like they have a vested interest in you being a closed-minded materialist idiot. Continuing on. In an instant, the speech of God replaces the human speech that built the tower. Revelation replaces the step-by-step knowledge of the senses. This speaks to me of something that Jesse and I talked about in that last podcast I published. Another one's coming next week, by the way. Not with her, with someone new. This speaks to me of something we talked about, that you can do as much thinking about the esoteric and the metaphysical as you want, but ultimately there's a precipice that you cannot pass until it becomes experiential, until you start engaging in things like meditation, ritualistic magic, ceremonial practices. Journaling even can be a ceremonial ritualistic practice. And so you start engaging with these mechanisms of communication with hidden natures of yourself, aspects of yourself that are hidden beneath these layers of materialism. Until you start engaging with those things, right, you are confined to your senses. You are confined to a materialist view of the world. In an instant, the speech of God replaces the human speech that built the tower. Revelation replaces the step-by-step knowledge of the senses. That materialist world is step-by-step. It's sequential. It's linear. Things lead to each other. The world of divinity is all things all at the same time. That's why you have so many faith traditions in the world that talk about wisdom as something that is very difficult or maybe impossible to communicate. The more you know, the harder it is to communicate it. This is potentially why, because it doesn't live in this step-by-step materialist worldview. It's somewhere else, and therefore the way that you communicate it is something else. Perhaps it is this, what we're seeing on the screen right now. Perhaps it is symbolism. Perhaps it is the world of the image, the world of art, the world of symbolic representations that are metaphorically aligned both to these material manifestations, but also to divinity, to divine principles. You can look at this Tower card and see both the events of the previous week and also a larger cosmic metaphor into which we are all woven, and it is woven into us. Let's look at the chat for a bit. Lisa clarifies on blue and red. Thank you, Lisa. Yes, definitely. She says blue is water, internal and unconscious. Red is fire, external and conscious. Exactly. Eden says, I've been looking at that event as, you know what? Let's just say it. I'm tired of Voldemorting this thing. Let's just say it. Together, all together now, with your own vocabulary. The riots on the Capitol of the United States. That is the event. It holds no power other than what you give it verbally. We can say it. I have been looking at the event as a deity speaking in the form of Eris and Discordia. You're opening a can of worms. Chaos and strife happening to open our eyes to what needs to be done moving forward. Lisa, there has been a lot of chatter in communities that make me feel that the energy is demanding inner work on an individual level. Many people need to be a big jolt in order to move into it. Yes, Eden says YouTube will kick folks for saying yes. Not a lot of people are going to see this video. I know that. It's partially my own fault. It's mostly my own fault. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. The future is about networks, guys. The future is about networks. The future is about you and me and us being together in whatever spaces we can manage. That's what it's about. It's not about popularity. It's not about a corporate worldview of take as much space as the human race will allow you and screw everything that's left in the wreckage of what you've done. It's about community. It's about network. That's why I'm here. That's why this webcam is on. I have thought about doing this for years and have only recently started. It's because it's taken me a long time to come around to this. And Gordon White's book, Chaos Protocols, helped me a lot with this. I highly recommend reading that. At some point, hopefully, we'll take a look at that here on the Friday show. But Gordon White's Chaos Protocols, Gordon White, the creator of the blog and podcast Rune Soup, R-U-N-E, separate word, S-O-U-P, Rune Soup. Check it out. He's great. That book that he wrote, Chaos Protocols, is also great. It's all about how to manage what is coming financially, politically, personally, spiritually. It's all about how to view the world through, I would say, is a healthy integration of chaos magic principles in one's life, how to view what is coming or what he sees as coming, which I think very few people could argue it is true. It seems pretty obvious now, don't it? What's coming? All right, let's get back to Rachel. Remember, again, just joining us, Rachel Pollack, 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Highly recommend it. We are talking about the tarot card, which you can see there on your screen, the Tower tarot card. This whiskey's kicking in. I'm empty, though. I got to make another glass. Can't stop now. Got to keep going. We got to get through it. We got to get through it. Hour and a half show so far. Longest show of 2021. You're welcome. Remember that the descent of the Spirit at Pentecost scrambles human language. People speak in tongues or make animal noises. You're not going to believe me. I wouldn't believe me. This is a synchronicity. I told you at the top of this show, if you're just joining us, that what was coming out next week is about speaking in tongues and about language. I just pulled this book off my shelf because I wanted to talk about the Tower card. I have not opened this book in a year. Easily. Synchronicity. People speak in tongues or make animal noises. And the shamans in their trances speak the languages of the beasts and birds. Human language is an aspect of culture and a limitation of the... I can't with this. Oh my God, this is blowing my... I'm gonna jump off a cliff. This is the most synchronistic thing. Human language is an aspect of culture and a limitation of consciousness. That's exactly what that entire thing was going to be about next week. I might not do it now because Rachel's doing it so succinctly. Many linguists, notably Benjamin Whorf, have demonstrated that our languages restrict our ability to perceive reality like a filter over the universe. And truth, the mystics tell us, cannot be expressed in words. Gah! Think about these words. Just let these words, just close your eyes with me and let these words wash over you. President. Chaos. Destruction. There's so much in these words. There's so much and there's so little. It's limited and it's expansive at the same time. Wittgenstein was on similar stuff. I'll check that out, Gwen. Thank you so much. Y'all have a look. The Tower's 16, right? It's the 16th card. You see there Roman numerals at the top of the card. XVI, that's 16. 16th card in the Major Arcana. Reduces to 7. 1 plus 6, 7. Which is the Chariot card. Does she talk about the... Well, we'll just look at the Chariot card. Chariot card is one of those cards I've never personally identified with, really. Like, it hasn't really gotten into me yet. You know how you have those cards that you just, like, feel them? I've never really totally felt the tarot card, or the Chariot card for some reason. Maybe I've not yet learned the meanings of this card fully. It's totally possible. The Tower 16 reduces to 7, the Chariot, linked by case and others to human speech. So the Chariot card linked to human speech. The speech of God, of the Tower, destroys in a moment all the careful constructions of culture, language, and consciousness. In so doing, it returns us to the chaos of the sea beneath the wheel of fortune and the pool of water behind the veil of the priestess. So remember I said that this background behind the high priestess looked watery, looked like water. That's because it is. Or it can be, I suppose is a better way to phrase that. And then you have the wheel of fortune. We're also talking about here. Pool of water. See all the blue? To say that the Tower's appearance... Oh, I lied. I skipped over. Sorry. Hold up. There we go. In some ways... The Tower is the most complex of all trumps. By the way, if that word, trumps, sparked something deeply in you, let me remind you casually that the Major Arcana in the Tarot is also referred to, they are also referred to as a collective as the trumps. Continuing on. In some ways, the Tower is the most complex of all the trumps. Its more subtle meanings are at odds with its obvious ones. Like the devil, which we should just look at the devil. We talked about the devil a few times. Devil's, I mean, it's the most metal. And no one can escape the metal, as we know. Let's look at the devil in the tarot. No one can escape the metal. There we go. The devil. You can't talk about the devil tarot card without talking about the D. It's a true statement. Okay. Like the devil, its divinatory meanings usually derive from the obvious. Well, let's talk about the devil's obvious divinatory meanings. Here in the devil, you see the figure of a devil, obviously linked to a Milton-esque interpretation, a Christian form of the devil, at least symbolically, with an upside down pentagram, the right side up pentagram being what's a good way to say this? Lisa, help me out. A symbolic manifestation of the balance meant to represent the human form. That's the best I got at the moment. I'm a little tipsy. Help me out, Lisa. The upside down pentagram representing balance, humanity, those 5 points being solidly leading to each other and also balanced upside down. That balance becomes subverted. It becomes imbalanced, right? The devil lifting up his right hand, lowering his left hand, just like the magician, except that with the magician who was lifting up his wand, drawing power from the heavens and bringing it into manifestation on these flowers on the bottom, the devil's doing the opposite. There is nothing coming from divinity in his right hand, and in his left, the wand is down pointed, casting fire, which is burning up our male figure here on the right. We know he's male because we can see his genitalia, just like we can see the genitalia of the figure on the left. Both of these figures, chains around their necks, bound to a pillar in the center of the devil card, the tail coming off of the masculine figure here. Both of these figures have horns and appear as fawns, magical-esque creatures. That's how they strike me anyway. Both of them have tails. The male's tail is fire. The female's is a vine with some fruit, probably grapes, on the end of it. Both bound in a chain, which is linked here in the middle to a pillar that the devil is sitting on. Yes, Eden. It also mirrors the lovers quite strongly. Let's look at the lovers then. You didn't know you were tuning in for a tarot class today, did you? Next week with the podcast. Whoop, that's not right. I'm glad porn didn't come up when I just typed in lovers. That would have been embarrassing. There we go. Lovers. Yes, it looks very much like the lovers. Masculine and feminine in the same place. We have fruit and fire on both sides, and some divine creature larger than both in the middle. In the devil, it is this demonic creature, and in the lovers, it is an angelic creature. We won't talk much about the lovers now. Let's just think about the devil for a second. His right hand is open with nothing in it, but it sure looks like he wants you to believe there is, or that there's something behind it. But there ain't. Left hand down, casting fire, which is lighting up the masculine influence in the card. Let me repeat this. Think about classical magic. Think about classical symbolism, right? What do we know about the right hand and the left hand? And I'm not saying materially. I'm saying classically, symbolically, metaphorically. What do we know about the right hand and the left hand? His left hand is downcast, holding a wand that is lighting a fire under the tail of the male in the card. But his right hand is holding nothing. There's no there. Empty. Still, he is lighting up the masculine influence in this card, even though he has nothing to offer him other than the chains around his neck. Where the feminine influence on the left side of the card is still sprouting the fruit from her tail, is not on fire, and is not touching that pedestal, and therefore not touching the devil's feet. You want to know, here's an opinion piece. You want to know why New Ageism is so focused on the divine feminine? Really? Why I think it is anyway? Because it's the answer. That's why. Crowley had it right. It's the answer. It's the way out. It's the way out. It's the way out. Okay? Divine feminine, anti-materialist, emotional, imaginative, receptive, high magic, flow, water, listen, feel, engage, interact with, but only once you have let things in. Let things in. I could go on. Eden says all material all the time, which is also pretty satanic. Hell yeah, it is. All material all the time is satanic. It's a very hedonistic archetype. Yeah. Let me mess up with my mic over here. I can't stop. My mic is an extension of my physiology. Speaking of materialistic masculine things. All right, let's go on. Because, oh wait, let's go back a bit. All right, going back to the tarot, the tower. That's what we're talking about, the tower. And we keep going off on all these tangents to keep talking about the tower. The tower usually refers to a period of violent upheaval, either literally or psychologically. That sounds relevant, don't it? The destruction of long-established situations, the breakup of relationships in anger or even violence. Because the card carries such furious significance, many people recoil at the sight of it. In the audio series that I hope you will consider attending the premiere of, that is how the tower is presented, as a card of tumult. Because the card carries such furious significance, many people recoil at the sight of it. The reaction raises the vital question of how to regard the tarot's more fearful images. Think fearful images. Whoops. Fearful images. Those two words. They hit hard in that chest this week, don't they? They put a lump in my throat. Fearful images. We must learn to use all experience, the tower as well as the lovers. When the tower appears, it is necessary to remember that it can lead to freedom. It can lead to freedom. The explosions are clearing away some situation that has built up intolerable pressure. They can lead to new beginnings. To say that the tower's appearance usually signifies difficult experience is not to insist that the deeper meanings will never arise. The card can mean a flash of enlightenment, particularly if such enlightenment replaces a limited view of life. Only the reader's intuition and experience, as well as the hints from the other cards, can indicate the specific meaning. I think she's almost done. Let's get through Rachel and then we're going to talk about it. We got 2 paragraphs left. Again, Rachel Pollack, 78 Degrees of Wisdom. Fantastic introductory book to the tarot. The tower reversed. Oh, she's talking about reversals. We don't care about reversals for this. That's pretty much it. Okay, listen. The esoteric view, potentially, of what has gone on this week that might give you some hope is that we can't go back. And because we can't go back, that means we can only go forward. To speak apolitically for a second, I think the answer to this, I think the people you should be listening to are people who are talking about how we integrate the events of this week into our perceptions of ourselves, not our perceptions of the people who did it. Our perceptions of who we are as people and what we want. There's a vision of Americanism that doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't. And until we all as a people come to collectively realize that it doesn't work, we can't move forward. And we're seeing this tension between these energetic, supposedly energetically opposed leaders who are actually, and we all know it, not opposed. Not opposed. So you have an inability to integrate because there's no good messaging. When there's a war on and there's a draft going, you need a message to get people, ordinary people, to buy into that. What about this world where everything is digital and nothing is tangible? In some ways, I feel like this week didn't even happen because I wasn't there. I'm seeing it through these same screens. The same screens I see all these things that don't feel real. In another way, I feel like it's terribly real. Like it's the most real thing that's ever happened in my life. There's tension. These things are warring with each other in some spiritual way, and we're caught up in it. The optimistic view is that now a new page has been turned. Everything that came before this event is on a different page, maybe even a different chapter than where we are now. We're all here together. And things are different now. But maybe that's good. Maybe that's good. Lisa says the problem is that I feel both sides, general people, desire the same things, just looking at it from different perspectives. And so they feel like opposing forces, but aren't. I agree with you, Lisa, and I don't think that's an accident. I don't think that's an accident. This past week I've been watching, and I don't usually, but I've been watching a lot of news while I work on major networks. And I'll tell you, you take a break from watching the news on the major networks and then you go back, you almost can't stomach it. I've been forcing myself to do it this week. I'll tell you why. And if you watch news on major network, I'm not coming after you, but I do want to point out every single second of you watching those programs, they are trying to get you to forget to ask yourself the question, why are they telling me this? Because it is almost never, unless you're watching PBS, and sometimes not even then, it is almost never because they're trying to relay what was accurate. That is not their intent, and you know it. And they're trying to make you forget that you know it. Make you forget that you know that their intent is something other than relaying the events of the day. Because if you knew it, then you might ask what their intent was. And if you ask what their intent is, then you start tracing down who benefits from this message that you're watching. And when you figure out who benefits, then you can easily see how the messaging has been translated through to you. And it is not about what happened. Eden says, I've seen a lot of people compare it to watching an apocalypse movie for this exact reason. It feels surreal, but it most certainly happened. We've been conditioned to fight each other instead of the system that's screwing us all. Lisa says, exactly. Distract with fighting each other, we lose sight of the real problems on the table. Yeah, as I was watching a lot of those events this week, the things I was thinking were, we are doing this. I kept trying to force that word we into my head. We. Not them, not they, we. This is our time, our moment. This is happening with our involvement. Not our, we're not condoning it. We're not approving it. But we are in this moment in which it happened. History will judge this live stream as having occurred within the moment in which this occurred. This event that we're never going back from. It's palpable. There's a lot of power there. A lot of responsibility there. But watch the networks. We could make a drinking game out of how many times major news networks tell you that you personally are responsible for making these changes in yourself, that you need to change, that you are the reason this is happening. Some part of you is run haywire in yourself and in the world, and you need to tamp it down in yourself and in the people around you, that you are a network, an entire modal structure of humanity surrounds you. And if you don't change you, then that network won't change it. That you are responsible for the opinions of your mother and father and wife and husband and brother and sister and child and aunt and uncle and grandma, that all of those people, you are responsible for their worldview, because your worldview is contagious. It's contagious. And so if you're adopting the worldview from these networks, when you know their intent is not noble, no matter who they are, it's not noble, then you're spreading the virus. You're spreading it. So you're responsible. We all are. We all are. We can make a drinking game of how many times that word appears, responsible, and we'd all be stone cold sober at the end of it. Because they're not going to tell you that. They're not. Why would they? If you thought you were responsible, then you might think you need to be better. And if you thought you might need to be better, then you might think you need to form your own opinions. If you thought you might need to form your own opinions, then you might go read a book. And you might start finding news from a multiplicity of sources. And you might start realizing that the news isn't even really news. And you might start realizing that, wow, so much about my reality is really confined to my worldview. And so if I'm going to work on being a better person, I need to work on having a better worldview. And that is, a lot of that is about diet. It's about mental diet, emotional diet, spiritual diet, physical diet. All those things go into changing you. You are changed by those things, right? You take it into yourself. You take the responsibility onto yourself for your diet, for your worldview, for the well-being of yourself, and then it becomes contagious. God bless him, my nephew, I mean, I don't have kids. I don't really know if I will, but one of my nephews, man, both my nephews are incredible, incredible people. And one of them, he has said stuff to me over the years that has made it clear that the way I live my life, he views as some sort of model. And I don't know if you've been in that experience or not, but man, the second it happens to you for the first time, whether it's your kid, your nephew, your niece, your little sibling, whatever, the second you realize that there is one person, even one person out there modeling their behavior, modeling the way they move through the world based off of what you do, and you let that in and you realize, man, if I fall apart, that sends a message. The second you let that happen, man, and you let it in, you're never the same. You're never the same after that. And you realize how important you are, how important we all are. And when I see this stuff that's happened this week, I mean, I can't help but be optimistic, because now it has happened. The lightning bolt has hit the tower. And people are going to try and convince us all that that isn't what happened. And the reason they're going to try and convince us of that is because they know it too. That if we are all aware that the tower is now on fire and it is crumbling, then we might start thinking about what's next. First letter of God's name. All these little flames around are the first letter of God's name. Maybe what's next is the next stage after the Kali Yuga. Maybe the next step, that what is next is rebuilding. But you can't rebuild till it comes down a little bit. It's got to come down. There's no other way. I mean, if you're anything like me, you've been sitting back for years just wondering, like, how do we fix it? How do we fix it? All of it. Like, how do we get there? And this week, what I've seen is it's got to break a little bit, hopefully just a little bit. It's got to break a little bit so that everybody knows it's broken. It's only when we all know it's broken that we can fix it. There's an energetic thing in that, man. I was just at the post office mailing off a bunch of these VIP things. If you get a ticket for the audio series, you'll get these, a bunch of merch in the mail. And I was mailing a bunch of those out to some people who were coming. And there was a guy beside me with that red MAGA hat on, and it was old. It looked like this. He was in his 60s, this guy. Late 60s, early 70s maybe. It was old. It looked like he had sweated in it for months. You know, it was like pale pink, and the brim was all bent, and there was wrinkles all around the sides and everything. I was looking at this guy as he was talking to a postal worker who's of Middle Eastern descent and had a very heavy accent, listening to him behind masks, both of them, being like, huh? What? And looking back at her and seeing the grace with which she engaged in that experience. Just being like, what I said, sir, was, and enunciating as much as could, not meanly, just trying to connect with this guy. And he left that post office in a huff. And when he walked out, everybody in that room laughed, me included. Because he had so fully embodied this archetype that he didn't realize that, like, he is the thing in his own way. Everything in that circumstance was setting itself up to help him, and he turned his back on it because he wasn't willing to meet someone halfway and be gracious about his situation. And it was so comical that we laughed, all of us. The same scenario plays out before this week, and I'm not sure we'd all laugh. I think maybe we'd all, be like, oh, he's one of, he's an other of whatever bent. He's not like me. But nobody had that reaction. Everybody thought it was funny. I think this week changed some stuff, man. I think it did. I think people are starting to see the tower, see the lightning, see the fire, see it coming down, and know maybe now we can rebuild. Maybe we've not gone too far, that it all has to come down. Maybe just a little, maybe a lightning strike that is traumatic and painful, and people are hurt and people are dead, but it's not a total collapse. There's optimism in that a little bit. Not perfect, but not the end either. I think it's hopeful. I'm obviously traumatized, just like everyone else is, by all this stuff. But I'm also hopeful. You can't rebuild the tower until the tower comes down. And it sure feels like to me that the tower has come down a little bit. And I'm not talking about the tower of X or Y political party or X or Y political ideology. I wish it was that easy. It ain't. It ain't that easy. Our problems are much deeper than that. Our problems are about materialism. Materialism, Western materialism itself. That's where our problem is. That's where it is. Everybody, welcome to 2021. My voice is hoarse. I gotta go prep for a rehearsal in a few hours. I very much hope you will consider coming to this live premiere event on January 29th. Check out the video I just uploaded to check that out. I think we all need each other now. I think we all need to be together, doing fun stuff in a digital space, having a good time together, enjoying a cool ghost story together. It's just a night to be together and have a good time. I love you all. Thank you so much for tuning into this. Thank you, Eden. Thank you for getting a ticket. Everybody, you can get a ticket. Links below that video. I love you all. I can't wait to see you next Friday. Hopefully we'll have a whole presentation on speaking in tongues. Go buy also, if you've got the money and the time, go buy 78 Degrees of Wisdom. If you are interested in tarot but new to it, or you just want an introductory look, a good introductory look at tarot, even if you know a lot about it, I can't recommend that book enough. It's a fantastic book. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. I can't wait to see you next week. Until then, bye-bye, everybody. I'll see you later. Stay weird, witches. There it is. That's the tagline. Bye, everybody.